Morning. Just want to share a brief few thoughts on prayer. Dave once again encourages to pray as you look to James on Sunday morning. And it's something that we always need reminding of, because it's something that's so easy to not do. It's so easy to get sidetracked by other things, but it's hugely important to us as Christians. And I just wanted to encourage us, just very practically, to pray today, to spend some moments in prayer. My last Devo, I kind of encouraged us to find God in every moment throughout the day, but today I just felt led to look at a few verses where Jesus specifically finds a quiet place in the day with the one purpose of praying and being with his Father. And I just wanted to read a couple of those verses. There are so many examples in the Gospels where Jesus retreats to pray. I mean, at the start of his ministry, he goes into wilderness, doesn't he, to pray. But then not long after that, in Luke chapter 5, Jesus has healed a leper, and at the end of this day, full-on day of ministry, of healing, it says in verse 16, "But he would withdraw to desolate places to pray." Jesus was quick to withdraw to these quiet places with the one purpose of praying after a busy day's ministry. That's how he found his rest. The next chapter, again, in Luke chapter 6, right before he chose the 12 disciples, a pretty significant decision that he had to make in his life. In verse 12 it says, "In these days he went out to the mountain to pray, and all night he continued in prayer to God." So he's prayed after a busy day's ministry, and now he's about to pray before a busy day of ministry. He prays before he makes these big decisions in life. There's also an example of how Jesus prayed when, as a way to deal with grief, to deal with tough things. When his cousin John the Baptist was killed by Herod in Mark chapter 14, he receives this terrible news. And his natural reaction, the thing that he did, was he retreated to a place to pray. It says in Matthew 14, verse 13, "Now when Jesus heard this, he withdrew from there in a boat to a desolate place by himself." And when Jesus does that, we know that he's going to pray. Jesus was so quick to go to places, to spend time in prayer. And again in Mark chapter 6, immediately he made his disciples get into a boat and go before him to the other side to Bethsaida, while he dismissed the crowd. This is right after the feeding of the 5,000. And after he had taken leave of them, he went up on the mountain to pray. And I've not even got to the final prayer of Jesus' life before his murder, where he went to the garden and spent those hours, the final night of his life, in prayer to his Father. The point is that Jesus was quick to go to his Father in prayer. He regularly did it every day, I would imagine, because he knew the importance of prayer. He knew the importance of being in that place of solitude with his Father. And how much more do we need to remind ourselves of that importance? As I said at the beginning, it's so easy to forget about prayer. We're reminded constantly in Scripture to pray. So I'd encourage you today, whatever your day looks like, it might just be a few minutes to step out of the day, whatever you're doing, and just pray to your Father. Because what we don't also know is that he loves it. He loves the communion with us, and find that quiet place, following Jesus' example. God bless.